Hey, welcome to my booth. I'm Jay, and today's sample is from Wesley. It's a lovely little bit from the Velveteen Rabbit, and Wesley's particularly curious about male voice performing female characters. It's a question I'm asked often, either male performing female or vice versa, female performing male. So I'm excited to talk about it. Before we do, though, if you'd like to submit a sample of your own, there's a form in the description. Send me something. And if you like the stuff and you find it helpful, it helps me if you click the buttons down there. And there are other ways to support these efforts in the description. And if you want coaching, that's in the description as well. Let's go.
It was light now, for the moon had arisen. The forest was beautiful, and the fronds of the bracken shone like frosted silver. In the open glade between the tree trunks, the wild rabbits danced with their shadows on the velvet grass. But when they saw the fairy, they all stopped dancing and stood round in a ring to stare at her.
Nice. Okay, just pausing really quickly before we get to the fairy. Just a couple thoughts. Firstly, Wesley, you got a fantastic, lovely voice. And like the way you're performing this, you could kill in sleep stories. I do a lot of sleep story, like the Calm app where Matthew McConaughey talks you to sleep and all that jazz. You could kill in those for sure. So my first thoughts in terms of just general performance notes for this first little bit, the word that, because I've listened to this a couple times, and the word that keeps coming to mind, it's not perfect, so bear with me while I talk about what I mean by it, but the word is engaged. And what I mean by that specifically is right now you've got a lovely sort of tone or filter that's cast over the whole thing, a wash, to use painting terminology, over the whole thing. And as you tell the story, it's a really lovely experience, but what's happening to me in my listening of it is that's what I pick up mostly, and I start to lose the content of what's actually happening in favor of this sort of dreamlike, wonderful, magical tone that goes over the whole thing. So that's just sort of a word of caution there. And then what I mean by engaged is, as an example, these rabbits, they're just hanging out, doing their thing in this really lovely forest that's described really beautifully and poetically, and then this fairy shows up out of nowhere. And what I mean by engaged is using the information here when the fairy shows up and letting that inform your storytelling in a way. So when this fairy shows up and the rabbits stop and get in a circle to watch her, is this the first time that she's arrived? Is this the first time they've ever seen her? Do they know her? Are they happy about what's happening? Are they terrified? Are they pissed that she interrupted their party? All of that, whatever the circumstances are, you can use those and allow them to inform the way you tell the story a bit. And that helps me as the listener to better understand what's going on and how I should feel about this circumstance. So for whatever that's worth, let's get to this fairy.
"I've brought you a new playfellow," the fairy said. "You must be very kind to him and teach him all he needs to know in Rabbitland, for he is going to live with you forever and ever." And she kissed the little rabbit and put him down on the grass. "Run and play, little rabbit," she said.
Okay, cool. So male voice performing female characters, or vice versa, female voice performing male characters. The same kind of stuff applies no matter what. If you, as a narrator, are performing any character that frankly is not you, then it's, different than yourself. And it varies in degrees. And it happens a lot in audiobooks. So the trick here is, as you're coming up, well, a few things. One, as a narrator, you're never obligated to embody a character wholly. What I mean by that is when somebody listens to an audiobook, they're never under any delusions that you're more than just one person doing the thing. And that releases you of any obligation to become the character. They know that it's just one person, in this case, Wesley, telling this story. And so it's not going to take you out of it if they're not going to hear me narrating, a female voice, and they're not going to say, that's not a lady. That doesn't happen. And so we can release ourselves of that pressure and anxiety already. And the next thing is to perform a character that doesn't align with your own identity well, whether it be male performing a female character or a masculine person performing a feminine person, however you want to say it, and whatever combinations. The trick is always to go with the character's needs, wants, personality, and circumstance. So in this instance, with this fairy, she seems like a pretty giving person. She's here to give this little rabbit a new and exciting life with his fellows. And you're leaning into that a little bit, that she seems very magical, very calm, very sort of Glinda a la the Wizard of Oz-esque. Now, you can do this any way you want with any character, because she could also be like a very domineering fairy, and that would change how you perform her, but it wouldn't necessarily change how you do the vocal performance. I have a video that I did recently on narrators doing a close to home voice, where you don't really do like, here's my narrator voice and here's all of the other character. You don't go like a big shift in your vocal performance. It's just like, here's my voice. And if I'm performing a character that's, somewhat feminine, maybe I'll switch it like this. And it's a slight shift of degrees, and it really is centered upon the question of needs, wants, their personality, and how they operate in the world, and their relationship to everyone that they're around. All to say, I buy this as the fairy, and you could do degrees of this more or less, however you want. But with any character, as long as you are faithful to that character's, again, needs, wants, desires, and their relationships to the world around them, you're golden. Nobody's going to question and say, that's not a lady, as I said before. So you could perform this fairy in a number of ways. I hope that's helpful, and it's not really it doesn't feel like a cop-out answer, but there's no trick really to it. It's just you listen to the character and perform it. I hope this is helpful for you, Wesley, and for the rest of you, I hope so as well. Until the next one of these, be well, everybody, and I'll see you there. Toodles.